Ask someone to name a song associated with the early MTV era of New Wave, and you'll get quite a few answers. Turning Japanese by the Vapors, I Ran So Far Away by A Flock of Seagulls, She Blinded Me with Science by Thomas Dolby, Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners, and plenty more dominated the music video channel with their parade of odd haircuts, synthesizers, strange outfits, and videos with striking imagery despite clearly lacking any budgets. But none seems to dominate more than the very first video to ever play on it. Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. Being the first to do something usually means you stand out, and the Buggles did, but not for very long. The term one-hit wonder had existed before the MTV era dominated the 80s, but music videos seemed to reinvigorate it, as plenty of iconic songs by bands who failed to do anything more thrived in the era of the music video. Most such bands do tend to have minor things of note beyond their one hit. An interesting formation, being a part of other bands, writing or producing other famous songs, or even being bizarre in and of themselves. And the Buggles are no exception, as their story covers more than a few interesting other pieces of music from the 80s and onward, which I'd like to share with you all tonight. The Buggles consisted of two people, lead singer and bass player Trevor Horn and keyboard player Jeffrey Downs. The group was originally rounded by a third member named Bruce Woolley, who had written songs with them, but he got signed as a solo act. The Buggles were also signed, leading to the slightly amusing fact of two bands performing the same songs that they had written together under two different names. Speaking of names, the name The Buggles came from a play on the Beatles. Trevor Horn has admitted, in retrospect, I have frequently regretted calling myself Buggles, but in those days I never really thought much about packaging or selling myself. All that really concerned me was the record. After some troubles finding a recording studio and a label, the two managed to secure a deal with Island Records. Video Killed the Radio Star released in Europe in September of 1979, going to number 1 in several countries, including the UK, France, Australia, Austria, Japan, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Italy, and Ireland, but it didn't chart highly in America. Three other singles off the same album, The Plastic Age, did lesser numbers, Living in the Plastic Age, Clean Clean, and Elstree, and also failed to cross the Atlantic to America. There are a lot of bands like that you can find. America considers them one-hit wonders, but they have a greater presence in their home country or in Europe overall. It would take a while for them to have American success, but for now they had finished a full album they were satisfied with. After their first album, the first twist in the Buggles story occurs when they were recruited by the famous prog rock band Yes to assist after they lost their lead singer and keyboard player, resulting in the 1981 album Drama. This was a temporary arrangement for one album, and the two lost members of Yes would later rejoin the group, leaving the Buggles to go back to their own projects. Around this time, however, MTV had launched and the Buggles' American sales started to go up. The two would go to work on a second album, Adventures in Modern Recording, which unfortunately didn't do very well, possibly owing to the fact that Jeffrey Downs left to work with a supergroup known as Asia, with members of the groups King Crimson, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and funnily enough, Yes. Afterwards, Trevor Horn focused his efforts on production, assisting with various groups and artists. He assisted Yes once more for their biggest hit, Owner of a Lonely Heart. He was part of the producer collective known as Art of Noise, and he's worked with various other artists, ranging from ABC, Grace Jones, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and the Pet Shop Boys. Some of his biggest hits include producing Kiss from a Rose as performed by the R&B singer Seal, Leanne Rimes' smash soundtrack hit Can't Fight the Moonlight, and the controversial All the Things She Said by the Russian duo Tattoo. Horn has continued to produce and assist with various projects to this day, including working with Robbie Williams, and only he knows what he'll do next. The Buggles are definitely not the largest new wave one-hit wonder, but they do maintain a particular place in pop culture as the ambassadors of the MTV era, which resulted in a wonderfully strange and interesting decade for music, and their influence lives on through every music video that offers a vision of the future, dated a future though it might be, as well as in their songwriting and production. And the subject of matter of Video Killed the Radio Star, while it might have been looking back on the radio soaps and dramas that television killed in its advent, it certainly seemed to signal the change for the more image-centric view of music that MTV ended up causing. They might not have been the most innovative or influential act of the 80s, that is almost definitely for certain, but they did leave their mark as the first visitors to that alien planet known as music television.